The first thing I want to talk about is Hong Kong. And one of the reasons for that is because I'm about 3/4 of the way through rereading 1984. And man, I got to tell you what, it's frightening to read 1984 and then to read what's going on in Hong Kong vis-a-vis China. So tell us, if you don't mind, kind of lay out a little bit what is going on right now in Hong Kong as it relates to China.
So we got to go back to 1996, I believe it was, where Hong Kong was a protectorate of the United Kingdom. And so at that point, the UK was kind of getting out of the out of having all these far-flung protectorates, and they, in essence, said, we're going to give Hong Kong back to China with some preconditions, that Hong Kong had to be allowed to operate as an independent entity for, I want to say, 75 years. There was a time horizon, right? We still have about 35 years on that clock, right? So what the Chinese have done, the Chinese Communist Party has done, has basically violated that international agreement that they made not only with the United Kingdom, but with the broader United Nations. And they have, in essence, taken over Hong Kong. Hong Kong was free. Hong Kong was a financial center of Asia, not just Asia, but the rest of the world. And now the Chinese government has come in and banning books that talk about democracy and are trying to crush this, the will and the backs of these folks. Now, this is a premonition of what they're going to try to do with Taiwan. So for the Chinese, they were going to get Hong Kong. And part of it was, if they waited 35 years, it was going to come their way. But they saw the opportunity that coronavirus is presenting. They saw the Europe and the tension, the transatlantic tensions between the United States and our EU allies, and they pushed hard, and they've been successful in basically taking over Hong Kong. You had protesters in Hong Kong that was trying to fight this overreach, singing the national anthem, saying, "America, we need your help," right? Yeah. They were marching on our embassy, waving our flag, saying, this is an example of how we have to make sure democracy continues. And democracy is dying right now in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and so the most recent thing I read, Will, was that they have passed a law of some sort that you can get arrested by the Chinese authorities for criticizing what's going on in Hong Kong. I haven't read all the details of that, but as I read through 1984, I mean, the parallels are just absolutely stunning. I mean, the idea of, quote, Big Brother, which would be China in this case, in 1984, is we're going to get rid of the past. We're going to get rid of books. We're going to change the language. So there's not even any concept of democracy anymore. And so if there's not even a word for that, then consciously people don't even think about that. And I worry a lot, Will, that Hong Kong is going down that direction so fast that it may be too late to do anything about it.
Absolutely. Or the only way that you're going to be able to stop it is with force. And then that becomes a broader question of, when do you use force in that kind of situation? And if we're going to be the ones using force, is the American public prepared for that? And the question is going to be, why? So here's the other thing I've learned over my years. If there is not a consequence for negative behavior, that negative behavior will continue. And so what is the rest of the world going to do to the Chinese in response to this? Like, I could equate what the Chinese have done in Hong Kong to what the Russians have done in the Donbass region of the Ukraine, or Crimea, or what they've tried to do in south of Ossetia in Georgia, right? Like, this is the Russians have done this. And this is, I think the Chinese saw that playbook. They're also a little more sophisticated on this. And then now they have the technological superiority to do even crazier things than what we saw in 1980 84. And so this is a broader issue, because this authoritarian activity, this really is a question about authoritarianism versus democracy.
Yeah.
And if we don't stand up for democracy when it gets attacked, then who will?